This beautiful woman turned out to be a robber. He walked into the Federal Reserve Bank calmly, found a corner, took off his backpack, and took out a submachine gun from inside. At the same time, an accomplice disguised as a cleaner took out a smoke bomb and broke into the control room, quickly knocking down the security guard on duty. Then cut off the electronic surveillance equipment and cameras, and then used smoke bombs to trigger alarms. There was chaos in the bank. This is when an accomplice closes the door and threatens everyone at gunpoint to go back inside. Several other people put on masks and came out of the control room, and they quickly subdued the security captain. The robber leader Xiao Mei also took up arms and quickly took control of the scene with the cooperation of other accomplices. Then the robbers put on uniform clothes, and Xiao Mei said that she was here to ask for money, and that as long as she obeyed, she would be fine. If you try to resist, you will die. As soon as these words came out, the hostages became honest. Then they asked the bank security to stand up, chased them all out, leaving only the helpless customers, gave them the same clothes, and then took away all the mobile phones. One young man immediately expressed his dissatisfaction and was stunned with an electric bat in the next second. The robbers found the bank manager Xiao Mei among the hostages and asked him to hand over the keys to the vault. Unexpectedly, the manager was also a tough guy and advised them to stop as soon as possible. As soon as he finished speaking, he fired hard. The robber put a knife to his neck. Now the manager became honest and took out the key obediently. When the vault door opened, it was filled with gold. Xiao Mei has no interest in these gold worth hundreds of billions, because this batch of gold is all registered. Then he opened the iron gate waterfall on the side, and underneath were some inconspicuous boxes. Baldhead opened it and laughed out loud. Inside are gold bricks left over from World War II, and few people know that these golds are their target. At this time, the police also arrived at the scene and surrounded the bank. However, there were many hostages inside and the police did not dare to attack. So they asked the security captain, but the captain was also confused. He said he knew nothing. Since no useful clues could be found, police officer Sister Jean called in negotiator Lao Hei. Lao Hei called the bank. Xiao Mei asked them to send some food and water, and asked them to prepare 2 cars before 12 o'clock in the evening. Truck or take out the hostages. Lao Hei was just about to hook up the still life, but Xiao Mei hung up the phone directly. Then she quietly opened the safe number 392 and put her necklace and a notebook in. After a while, Lao Hei brought the food. He wanted to take the opportunity to chat with Xiao Mei, but Xiao Mei looked at the policemen around her and turned around and entered the bank without saying anything. At this time, the robbers in the vault were preparing to melt all the gold bricks. This group of robbers was so arrogant. In order to transport 3 tons of gold out of the bank, they actually smelted it in the vault. The gold quickly turned into gold water at high temperatures. The other 2 people found a good position on the wall and started drilling holes in the wall with water jets. This was a conversation. But expert Lao Hei discovered that the robbers' modus operandi was exactly the same as the diamond case 5 years ago. Back then, the bank owner was sent to prison by the robber boss. After that, his son took over the bank and became the boss of multiple criminal groups. Lao Hei suspected that the superscript might be related to the robbers. In order to verify his suspicion, he gave the robbers drinking water and wanted to take the opportunity to chat. This time Xiao Mei did not refuse, and the 2 had a very happy conversation. Xiao Mei also put forward the conditions again, not only 2 trucks, but also an airplane. It was obvious that this was stalling for time, but they had hostages in hand, and Lao Hei did not dare to act rashly. By night, 2 trucks were ready for them, and in exchange, Xiao Mei promised to let Sister Jean come in to check on the hostages. After seeing that the person was safe and sound, Xiao Mei did not follow the routine and directly detained Sister Jean. Lao Hei almost went crazy when he saw this scene, but Xiao Mei didn't plan to do anything to Sister Jean. Instead, she took off her mask and whispered in her ear. She didn't know what they said. On the other side, a woman came to report the crime. She claimed to be the girlfriend of one of the robbers inside, and said that she had been domestically abused many times. A few days ago, his boyfriend told him that he was going to rob a bank and planned to dig a tunnel to escape. But Lao Hei didn't believe it at all, because there was a small river behind the bank, and digging a tunnel was obviously not feasible. But the woman said that the southwest corner of the bank was dry. More than 10 years ago, the subway was abandoned after digging there. Then Lao Hei sent 2 special police officers to sneak in quietly. Unexpectedly, Xiao Mei received the news in advance. The special police officers were caught as soon as they entered. The 2 were beaten with bruises on their noses and faces and were thrown out. Lao Hei's mentality was a little broken. He called and asked Xiao Mei what she wanted to do. Xiao Mei didn't say anything and hung up the phone. It turns out that everything Xiao Mei did was forced. Her brother was the father who settled the diamond case 5 years ago. In order to avenge his father, Sun Biao arrested his brother and threatened Xiao Mei to save his brother. Just steal those gold bricks from World War II. Xiao Mei had no choice but to agree. At this time, the tunnel in the bank was almost dug by the robbers. The robbers were preparing to transport away 3 tons of gold in the bank. One of the robbers finally got through the tunnel, but was knifed away by his accomplice as soon as he came out. Xiao Mei came to question Baldhead, but was scolded. It turns out that Xiaomei is just a tool, so he goes to the police Sister Jean, and he says that he doesn't want gold at all, and the reason why he does all this is to save his brother. Then he gave Sister Jean a phone and told him to follow the instructions in the text message if he had an accident. Then Xiaomei attached the bomb she had prepared in advance to the safe. She also placed a few bombs at the entrance of the tunnel, and then found an excuse to lock Baldhead in the vault. Then he pressed the remote control, and the huge impact blew the inside of the bank to pieces. Xiaomei was also knocked to the ground. The police and reporters outside were shocked. Lao He sensed something was wrong and immediately led people to the bank. At this time, many cracks were blown out of the wall, but within a minute, the river surged along the tunnel. When Lao He came in, he couldn't tell who was the robber and who was the hostage because they were all wearing the same clothes, so he could only announce that all the hostages had been rescued and that the gold had not been stolen. At this time, Lao He discovered that the woman who reported the crime was missing, and there was a number 392 on the blackboard, which was the safe where the diamond was stolen 5 years ago. Lao He quickly opened the cabinet. Inside there was a gold brick and a notebook, with marked criminal evidence recorded on them. There is also a photo. It turns out that Xiaomei and the woman who reported the crime are biological sisters. The police then interrogated all the hostages, but the robbers all wore masks and no one had seen their true faces. After asking for a long time, there was no clue, so in the end I had to leave it alone. The next day, several cleaners came to the bank to clean up the scene. They threw all the damaged guardrails into the car, and these guardrails were made of pure gold. It turns out that the robbers held the gold to make guardrails and then deliberately blew them up with bombs. Wait until the next day to disguise yourself as a cleaner and transport the gold away openly. In the evening, Sister Jean came to a dog according to the information on her mobile phone. As soon as he found the stolen gold in the truck, he was blocked by the mourners. Fortunately, Sister Jean notified Lao He in advance, and soon a large number of police officers rushed to the scene. In the end, the gold was recovered and all the criminals were captured. It's a pity that Xiaomei's brother was still killed. In fact, Xiaomei had already guessed his brother's fate, so he took the initiative to cooperate with the police and planned to use the police's help to get rid of his enemy. Fortunately, his goal has been achieved and the movie ends here.